Sal, a lot of viewers watching this would love to drop 20 to 30 pounds before the year is out. If you needed to accomplish this task, what are the 3 to 5 most important steps to make this manageable and efficient?
Well, when you're looking at any health or fitness goal, you need to understand or create the proper context. Okay, so there's a few questions you want to ask yourself whenever you embark on something like this. The first question is, will this step will it move the needle? Will it produce results? And I think everybody asks that, right? They're not going to do something, or they're not going to do something that they know isn't going to produce results. But then the second two are equally as important. One of them being, is this something I'll actually do? And then, is this sustainable? Those are three very important questions, because what you don't want to do is take a step towards weight loss that is difficult or something you hate doing, and definitely not one that you're not going to maintain. You'll just gain it back, and that's the statistic. That's the data. A full 95% of people who lose weight gain it all back. So I'm going to give the people watching, listening to this, the steps that have the highest likelihood of long-term success, because that's the only success I consider. If it's short-term, I don't consider it success. I don't care if you lose 20 or 30 pounds and then gain it back. You failed. And oftentimes gaining it back and trying to lose it again makes things much more difficult. People are less likely to lose weight the second, third, fourth time down. Okay, so how can we do this in an effective way possible? Let's start with this. I like easy, black and white first steps that have a huge a huge impact. So, excuse me, one step that's going to cause a big change. Okay, that also is not going to feel restrictive. That's also very important, Doug, because if you're doing something that feels restrictive, you're going to be motivated until you've accomplished your goal, or until the motivation fails, typically, or fades. So, what's that step? What's that step that doesn't feel restrictive? What's that step that is black and white and easy? What's that step that's going to produce a big change? And that's this. Avoid heavily processed foods. Okay? Eat as much as you want. So that's the part that doesn't feel restrictive. But avoid heavily processed foods. That's the dietary step. That's the first one. And the reason why I like that one is avoiding heavily processed foods typically results in a weight loss on the scale by itself of anywhere between 10 to 20 pounds. Okay, by itself. Now, the reason for that is heavily processed foods, these are foods that are found in wrappers and boxes, are engineered to make you overeat. They're engineered to be hyper palatable. And the best studies that we have on nutrition are the ones that are done on processed foods versus whole natural foods. There's a lot of studies on diet that are out there, but many of them aren't that great because they rely on surveys. So it's like, how many tomatoes did you eat last week type of deal. The studies that we have on processed foods are controlled. People actually go into a lab. They take groups of people, they put them in rooms, they control for macros, so similar, protein, fat, carb breakdown. But one room is all processed foods, the other room is all whole natural foods, and they just let people eat. And then they take those groups and they switch rooms. And what we find consistently across the board is that if you eat until you're satisfied and your diet is a majority comprised of heavily processed foods, which is most Americans, average Americans' diet is about 70% or to 80% processed foods. Most of their calories, I should say, come from those. If that is your diet and you remove them and eat as much as you want of whole natural foods, you'll naturally eat about 500 calories less a day, sometimes more. Okay, so the range is probably 400 to 600 calories. So you've automatically cut your calories, which is how you lose body fat. You have to. But you don't feel like you're restricting yourself because you're eating until you're satisfied. And when I would do this with clients, I loved it because I would tell them, eat as much as you want, avoid heavily processed foods. It's an easy step. And they'd come to me and they'd say, I don't know how this is working. It's really weird. I'm losing weight, but I feel like I'm eating so much food. And the reality is they're actually eating less calories. And are you familiar with the history of the processed food industry, Doug?
Yeah, vaguely. I mean, I know that they're like made so that people can eat more of them.
Well, what they did, so years ago, when the tobacco industry was starting to become regulated, when the tobacco companies at the time, they were some of the largest companies in the world. and they saw the writing on the wall. Regulations are coming out, government policies coming out. Like they're going to tell everybody this is bad for you, and this is going to hurt us. And so what these companies did is, at the time, these were some of the largest corporate mergers and purchases in American history. What they did is they hedged their bets essentially by buying huge food companies. Okay. And then what they did is they took their scientists who understood the properties, the addictive properties of tobacco. They took those scientists and they had them work in the food industry. And what they did is they looked at palatability, which is how enjoyable something is to eat. So that includes taste, but that's just experience, mouth feel, it's smell, it's the texture, it's the residue it leaves on your fingertips, it's the aftertaste, it's the crunch. It's like there's so many different things that they've broken down into this crazy science. I mean, billions and billions of dollars was spent into, understanding palatability, and then they engineer foods to be absolutely irresistible. And this results in us overeating them. They have drug-like effects. Okay. In fact, eating a heavily processed food diet causes changes in the reward systems of the brain, similar to what you'd see with drug use. So down regulation of receptors, and parts of the brain will change. And what this looks like is, if you eat a lot of apple flavored candy, a real apple starts to taste bland very shortly because of the way the brain starts to adapt to perceive this palatability. So that's why you tell somebody who eats a lot of processed foods, you switch to whole natural foods, and they'll say things like fruit tastes bland, even though fruit is the sweetest natural thing that you can consume. So that's the history. And so what they've done is they've really engineered these foods to be incredibly addictive. And so when you just remove them, your body's natural systems of satiety actually work. And what you find is people who exercise properly, who also avoid heavily processed foods, naturally will fall into a healthy body fat range for the most part, right? Except for the extremes. What you tend to see is men, in my experience, men's body fat percentage will fall anywhere between 14 to 17% body fat without even monitoring or trying to restrict. They're just eating whole natural foods. And with women, it's typically around 22 to 26% body fat. So you get this kind of healthy, relatively fit looking body fat percentage. That's the diet part. The exercise part of what we're talking about, what we want is we want something or a form of exercise that has a lot of bang for its buck. So a lot of results for the time spent doing it. Okay, now there's two ways to look at this problem. One way is to say, okay, well, I'm going to pick the form of exercise that burns the most calories. Okay. The other way is to look at the exercise and say, what are the adaptations that this exercise induces? And then what do those adaptations mean? Okay, so if we look at the calorie burning aspect of exercise, what we're left with is cardio. Cardio burns the most calories per time spent. The problem is the adaptation that it induces is not conducive to long-term fat loss success. Why? Well, cardiovascular training promotes the adaptation of endurance, but it doesn't really promote strength. In fact, you need very little strength for cardiovascular endurance type training. And because that form of exercise simultaneously burns so many calories, your body adapts to that form of exercise by becoming a more efficient calorie burning machine. So your body actually learns how to burn less calories. It slows down its metabolism. Part of the way it does it is it pares muscle down. This is why when you look at the studies on fat loss, where they use cardio as the form of exercise, so calorie restriction plus cardio, a significant percentage of the weight comes from muscle because the body pares muscle down. So you actually get this metabolism slowing effect, and you'll plateau with your workout. Plus, the fat loss benefits are really only derived from doing the exercise itself. So when you stop doing it, you don't get any more fat loss effects. Now, on the other side of this coin is the adaptation process. And if we look at the adaptation process, what adaptations are most beneficial for fat loss, sustainable fat loss? Well, that's easy. Building muscle. strength training is the best way to do that because, well, it makes you stronger. You build muscle. Muscle burns more calories. If you feed that muscle and you do so, your body is less likely to try to become efficient. In fact, it becomes less efficient through some complicated mechanisms, many of which we don't fully understand, but you will get a faster metabolic rate. You also improve insulin sensitivity. You also leverage your hormones to be more effective. And hormones do play a big role in fat storage and fat burning. I mean, you could take a middle-aged individual, put them on hormone replacement therapy, optimize the hormones, and they naturally get leaner and build a little muscle. And so building muscle or strength training increases androgen receptor density. This is what testosterone attaches to. So your normal testosterone levels now become leveraged to be more effective. You're more insulin sensitive, which means you're less likely to have to pump out tons of insulin, less likely to store tons of body fat. And so strength training is should be the primary form of exercise. And you don't need to do a lot of it. What we're looking for are the adaptations, not the benefits of doing the activity itself. So 1 or 2 days a week for most people is enough to get something like 75 to 80% of all the benefits you'd get from strength training. I mean, you could get more, but it's diminishing returns after about twice a week. And that's what the data shows. That's also been my experience. And then lastly, daily activity is good for you anyway. So if you want to increase your daily activity, which is a good idea just for health, the best way to do that is to track your steps and to walk. I love walking, and I like walking because most people can do it with decent technique. You're not going to get injured. People don't typically need to change into gym clothes in order to do it. And you can do it whenever you want for the most part. Don't need to change into gym clothes. Time it after you eat. This has a profound insulin sensitizing effect. So walk for 10 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there's your 3 main steps. And if you do that and you're consistent with them, what you will see is nice, consistent, sustained body composition changes. An increase in muscle, a decrease in body fat. You'll look better, and it's far more sustainable.
So do you think if somebody did these things just for 30 days, let alone a year, would they see noticeable results?
Here's the deal. If you're looking at just 30 days, you're going to fail. Okay, period, end of story. What you want to look at in the short term and the long term are all the other benefits of eating healthy and exercising. And that'll result in the side effect of looking better. Okay, so what am I looking for in 30 days? Do I feel better? Do I have more energy? Am I stronger? Am I sleeping better? Do I feel healthier? Do I have more vitality? If it's a yes, you're doing great. Continue moving in that direction. And by the way, allow that to continue to lead you because you'll be able to gauge the intensity of your workouts and your diet appropriately. And the side effect of which being, you're going to look the way you want. I mean, to put it differently, Doug, a healthy person has good body fat percentage, good muscle, and looks pretty good. So that's what you should be after is health, not the scale or whatever. It will result in what you're looking for, but chase that first.
I say the 30-day thing as, somebody who's, I've been a trainer for a long time as well. And I think the reason I bring that up too is I found that clients, if they don't see results quickly, it's harder for them. It can be harder for them to stay motivated.
Here's the deal. Have you ever seen that video? I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's a famous psychology study. I remember the first time I saw it was in high school. It's an old video. You can find it on YouTube. Spoiler alert, I'm going to give you the ending here, okay? But I'll tell you what happens. There's a video of, there's like 10 people on screen, and they're passing a basketball back and forth between each other. And the instructions are, at the beginning of the video, count how many times the basketball is being passed. Okay? So you watch this, and you're counting every time it gets passed. At the end of the video, a professor walks out, and he says, okay, does everybody have their number? And you're like, yeah. And they go, did you see the gorilla? You're like, what? Then they rewind the video, and what you realize was a man in a gorilla suit walks through the group of people passing the basketball. But you didn't notice it. It walks right in front of you, but you don't notice it. Here's what's happening to your clients, Doug, in 30 days. They are getting results. They're just focused on the scale. They're focused on the results that well, first off, those are just losing weight and looking different in the mirror. That's, two things that happen. And there's so many things that happen from exercising and eating right. But you're just focused on those two things. This will be a very difficult journey if that's all you ever focus on. Like, you can only look so good. You can only lose so much weight. So people are seeing results in the first 30 days. They just don't realize it because they're only focused on those things. So as a trainer, our job is to help them see the man in the gorilla suit. So the questions I would always ask is, how do you feel? Hey, do you notice any changes in energy? Any changes in libido? And people come up, you know what? Now that you say that, Sal, oh my God, I've been feeling good. And I would point things out like, oh my God, you got stronger. Do you see strength gains in 30 days? You better believe it. And I would let them know, hey, last time you did 3 push-ups. Today you did 5. That means you're not the same person. I would love saying that to people. You're not the same person you were last week. So they are seeing results. The problem is they're looking at just the basketball and they miss the man in the gorilla suit.
And I know one of the things that we've talked about on the show before, and I really loved that part of our conversation, was like looking at fitness as a form of self-love and self-care, instead of like, I need to beat my body up to lose weight. I need to beat my body up to look better. Whatever the example is that people have told themselves time and time again. That's why they don't stick to these plans. How can somebody develop a healthier relationship with health, exercise, diet, so that they can stick to it long term?
One of them is what I just said, which is to pay attention, and you have to do this consciously, pay attention and list all of the effects and benefits that you're getting from this new journey. So you may not see any weight on the scale. Your clothes might not feel looser, but you feel more energy. Your mood is better. You're sleeping more soundly. Like, pay attention to those things. The other thing is start to learn how to celebrate those wins, because our minds, our brains are so geared to noticing the negative that positives don't really come naturally to us. Remember, your body it evolved, if you will, just for Doug to not die. It didn't evolve for Doug to be happy and joyful. So make sure you take note of all the positive things, like, oh my God, I got out of the car so much faster, or I'm playing with my kids more and not getting tired. Like, that'll help us a lot. But the root is this, and you're going to have to do this consciously at first. Am I treating myself like someone I care about? Am I exercising in a way that is caring for myself? Am I eating in a way that's caring for me? By the way, balance is baked into that, right? Because sometimes that means you skip the gym, right? If you're real tired. Sometimes that means you enjoy the pizza with your friends. But usually it means you eat healthy, and usually it means you're super consistent with your diet. So that's a conscious thing. You consciously have to, am I caring? Okay, I'm at the gym. I know what my workout is. How can I do this in a way that's like treating myself like somebody who deserves to be cared for? And that's what'll start to happen. And if you do that over time, it starts to become a relationship that is healthy and better. But it is a journey. There is no destination here. Our brains are wired for progress. They're not wired for arrival. And so if you got to look at this as a journey, you have to look at this as a, what direction am I moving? Not, did I get there yet? Type of deal. But yeah, it definitely starts with that self-care.
And I know that people really love following, Mind Pump, obviously for a variety of reasons, but I think one of the things that they really feel connected to is when you post like day in the life. And so for you, I know you post a lot of what you eat. Like, walk us through your day, like breakfast, starting with breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, etc. Like, what do you eat to keep yourself at a healthy body fat percentage and as healthy as possible throughout the day?
Well, I mean, what I eat's not going to matter to anybody watching right now, unless you're, my identical twin. But I eat. My diet is probably 95% whole natural foods. Starting there, that makes a big difference. I typically will eat with each meal. So let's say breakfast, lunch, and dinner, typically. Sometimes I'll have a fourth meal. Probably about 50 grams of protein worth of meat, eggs or meat. So chicken or beef, or or eggs, sometimes fish. Okay. Now, I'll have vegetables, maybe in 2 of those meals, sometimes some fruit. Carbohydrates, that's where that's where there's a lot of variation. Okay. So I've identified for myself, and this seems to be true for a lot of people, that I feel most mentally sharp when my carbohydrates are very low. And that's because I'm running on ketones. Ketones are another source of energy that your body can run on besides glucose or glycogen. And so if I want more mental sharpness, then my diet is extremely low in carbohydrates, and I'm eating mostly proteins and fats and vegetables. If I want more athletic performance, strength, then I'm going to introduce those carbohydrates. And my carbohydrate sources typically are white rice or different types of potato. But that's pretty much it. So a day like right now I'm trying to eat in a way that promotes more mental sharpness. For breakfast, I may have, some meat, about 50 grams of protein worth of meat, maybe some steamed spinach or some vegetables. For lunch, it might be, again, chicken with like cucumber salad. And then dinner will be what my wife tends to prepare, which can be anything from lamb, beef, chicken, fish, maybe some starches at the end of the day, and some vegetables.
And so if you were like coaching a client on types of foods to eat, I know you talked about limiting processed foods, eating more whole foods. Like, I'm sure you got a lot of questions over the years, like, Sal, like, what should I have for breakfast? Like, what do I eat? I mean, I don't like eggs or whatever. What would you typically tell somebody as a framework for breakfast if they came to you?
So again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Whole natural foods. Start with a good protein amount. For women, that's probably around 30 grams of protein. For men, that's going to be around 50 grams of protein. I mean, berries are really good because they're high in fiber. And starting your day off with protein and fiber is a great way to have your insulin levels be relatively stable throughout the day, regardless of what you eat throughout the day. So starting with protein really makes a big difference with just how you feel later on throughout the day, which can affect things like mood and cravings and stuff like that. So, I mean, it could be anything. It could be chicken, it could be beef, it could be eggs. If you can have dairy, there's great dairy sources of protein like cottage cheese. There's Greek yogurt. Again, I like berries. So that's a great way. But I think the key here is start with a high protein source, whole natural protein source, and that has positive effects throughout the entire day.
And then that would obviously continue throughout the day. I mean, I know it's like it's the simplicity of it works. Like for lunch and dinner, it's the same thing, right? Like whole foods, healthy carbs, high protein, etc.
Yeah, there is no secret food if that's what people are looking for. There is no, eat an avocado with, goji berry. There's no secret food in what I'm saying. But by the way, protein shakes don't have the same satiety effect as whole natural foods. So, if you're trying to you want to, because protein is very satiety producing, which is great for fat loss. A high protein diet tends to make people eat less. It also has a high thermic effect. So, a 2,000 calorie diet with high protein versus a 2,000 calorie diet with less protein, the high protein diet will actually burn more calories because of what's required of the body to utilize that protein. But a shake has far less of the satiety effect. Okay, so if you have a shake in the morning, you don't expect to have the same appetite controlling effects as eating the same amount of protein from a whole natural source.
I know we've hit home a lot of these points over and over again. I think it's important because I know you guys talk about a lot of the same stuff, like just staying consistent, simple things, focus on the big rocks, no magic solutions. And yet a lot of people still want to jump to these quick fixes and use biohacking as a way to try to get stronger and lose fat, etc. Why do you think that, given the fact that all of this information has been said repeatedly over the years, people still don't think that's good enough for them with their health and fitness goals?
I mean, come on, man. The health and fitness industry is just plagued with terrible information. So it's confusing. Over here, you hear it's vegan. Over here, you hear it's paleo or carnivore. This person says this workout is the most effective. So that's a big part of it. Is it's just confusing. The other big part of it is that there's some counterintuitive aspects of it. If I say to you, exercising appropriately means you feel more energy at the end of your workout. It shouldn't make you feel like you beat up. Well, that's counterintuitive. I feel like if I beat the crap out of myself, it's a much more effective, workout. And plus, there's the other side of it, which you alluded to, which is people go into it hating themselves. Oh my God, I'm gross. Oh my God, I got to get this fat off my body. And so they adopt methods that are not effective. They're more like punishment. It's cathartic at first, but then of course later you rebel, because who wants to hate themselves? And then you come out of it. But the fitness industry in general, I mean, this is why we started our podcast. The whole motivation behind Mind Pump was to cut through the noise. It was to influence the fitness industry and start setting the narrative so that people would be getting the right information. It's also why we've recently now are investing time and money into training trainers and coaches. So we influence the consumers with the podcast, and we've done a decent job of that. We've definitely gotten some messages to come out there. It's difficult. It's a big ship. But now we're trying to work it from the inside. Can we train coaches and trainers through our courses and certifications so that because they're the ones that make the biggest impact. I mean, this, my podcast could reach X amount of people, but I'm not going to make an impact like you would with your client. It's the trainers that are really the lifeblood of the industry, and they're the ones that are really doing all the good work. And so now we're really trying to help them. And so yeah, it's difficult. There's so much bad information out there. It's not even funny.
Yeah, like the biggest roadblock I have with my clients, I don't know if you can relate to this, like when I first became a trainer, I became a trainer back in 2011, maybe 2012, somewhere around there. Maybe 2010, I forget the exact year. But nonetheless, the biggest roadblock was convincing my clients on the power of exercise and, why they should make better food choices. And now, over the last probably 3 years, it's been trying to convince them not to go on like a 5-day fast, or convince them not to walk around with their phone in a grocery store and scan like products for ingredients. It's been just trying to dispel a lot of these myths. And it's just been way more, I think, challenging because of social media and because there's so many loud voices out there. And I just think that in itself has been like a huge challenge that we face in the fitness industry.
It's a big challenge, but it's moving in the right direction. It's much more positive. I see more women strength training now than ever. That was a big one. That was a big roadblock. People are more wise to some of the lies that come out. But there's still that, the allure of like you mentioned, fasting, like, oh, fasting for fat loss. Like fasting is a spiritual practice. That's the value of fasting. There's no fat loss. The fat loss effects of fasting are because you eat less calories. And by the way, that's a terrible way to do it, by not eating. We used to call that starving yourself back in the day. So, but it's better now than it was. It's definitely better than when I first became a trainer. When I first became a trainer 27 years ago, 28 years ago, people are way more informed today than ever. Way more informed. So I see it being positive, especially with the introduction now of GLP-1s. Of course, there's going to be there's already a lot of misinformation around them. A lot of people be using them in ways that are not so great. But I do think that if trainers do a good job of getting ahead of the narrative, that we finally have this tool that we can utilize in combination with appropriate, smart exercise and diet and behavior modification, where we have a winning chance. We actually have, for the first time ever, a chance to reverse this trend of chronic illness and obesity.
Yeah, talk more about like your knowledge of GLP-1s. I think there is a lot of misinformation out there. I think that, you see celebrities that are using it just to lose a few pounds, which I know that's not what it's for. Like, why should people not be afraid of GLP-1s if they need to actually be on them?
Well, GLP-1s are like Ozempic, Wegovy, right? The chemical names or the The peptide names would be tirzepatide, semaglutide. This is the first time in history that we actually have a medical intervention, non-surgical, that will actually make a big difference. It actually is going to make a big difference. And you see this in the studies. Like, nothing's ever come close to this. And what they essentially do is they, decrease the secretion of insulin, they mimic glucagon, right, in the body. They tell your body you've eaten already, increase insulin sensitivity. But the main thing, the big effect, comes from the fact that you eat less. And you seem to have less food noise or less obsession with food. And that's a good start. That's a good start. The problem is, if you just eat less calories, that you will lose a significant amount of weight from muscle. Okay. Now, GLP-1s don't cause muscle loss. That's very clear. There's a lot of misinformation around there. It's actually opposite of what we see in the data with GLP-1s. GLP-1s actually are muscle preserving. So you're actually going to lose less muscle than you would with a GLP-1 than you would with a calorie restricted diet. But nonetheless, if you just eat less calories and you do nothing else, the way the body adapts to the reduced energy intake is by trying to match the energy intake with its energy output. And one of the primary ways it does this is it pares down a very energy expensive form of tissue, which is muscle. In other words, you just taking less calories, your body slows its metabolism down by paring muscle down. So what you'll do is you'll see, 40% of your weight loss comes from lean body mass. That's not good. That's a slower metabolism. You're less mobile, less healthy. You don't want that, and you definitely don't want to trade one problem for another. You don't want to go from obesity to being under muscled. Frailty actually has a worse track record than obesity does when it comes to long-term health. So you don't want that to happen. So the question is, well, how do I use these properly? Number one, make sure you hit your target body weight in protein. That has a muscle preserving effect. Number two, do strength training. You got to do strength training with it. Otherwise, you will lose lean body mass. The strength training with the protein intake should mitigate the muscle loss substantially, if not entirely. I've seen people now on GLP-1s actually build a little muscle while losing substantial amounts of body fat. And then number three, work on behavior modification. So what you'll find when you go on a GLP-1 is you're eating less, you're not craving as much, but, the issues that tended to trigger that overeating, like stress, anxiety, whatever, is still there. Replace it with something else. Create new behaviors and new patterns. So what you want to do is you want to allow the reduction in the behaviors of overeating, allow those neural networks to weaken, and then replace those with other behaviors and strengthen other neural networks. And then over time, then what you could probably do is start to come off of them and maintain your body. So I think that they're phenomenal in combination with a trainer or coach, if the trainer or coach knows how to leverage them in the right way. I mean, this is, like I said, I'm excited about them. Now, of course, there's a lot of abuse. There's people using them without trying to increase their protein. They're not lifting weights. They're just essentially just eating a little bit, which, by the way, you'll eventually plateau doing that. Your metabolism will adapt. I saw this. I saw there were people that I worked with, who had to lose 80 pounds, and they lost, 45 of it or 50, and then they plateaued. And they were eating like 1,100 calories a day. And they're like, what do I do? Do I up my dose? What am I going to eat 800 calories a day? That poses its own problems. So you will eventually plateau. So eat protein, hit your target body weight, and lift weights, and then focus on behavior modification. And over time, this definitely will have an impact.
This episode is brought to you by Timeline Nutrition. Listen, my main goals for the remainder of the year revolve around health and vitality. After hearing about Timeline Nutrition from several of my friends in the health industry, I decided to give their flagship product, MitoPure, a try. MitoPure contains urolithin A, which is a powerful postbiotic that can be challenging to get from your diet. As you know, science has been a big focus on the podcast, so I was really impressed that Timeline has done 10 years of research to bring this product to market. I've been taking their berry powder for over a month now, and have already noticed a bit of a difference in the gym. Some of the long-term benefits I'm hoping to achieve from taking it include improved energy, muscle strength, and endurance, which are right in line with my goals. So I highly recommend you check out Timeline Nutrition, and they are now offering 10% off your first order of MitoPure. So just go to timeline.com/Doug to get 10% off your first order of MitoPure. That's TIMELINE.com/Doug ELINE.com/Doug. Now back to the show. And so obviously I think the same rules are true if somebody's trying to lose weight without Ozempic and trying to preserve as much muscle mass as possible, right?
I mean, you're trying to lose weight and preserve muscle. Yeah. High protein, strength train. Don't cut the calories too low. Yeah, absolutely. Same formula.
There was a clip. I don't know if you saw it. You may have. I think I saw either Adam or Mind Pump comment on it, where this guy, I'm not going to name his name, was up on stage with his two daughters. They were like flexing their abs.
Yeah, that guy's an idiot.
Yeah, I would just love to know, I mean, just your thoughts on that, not maybe that guy, obviously, but the message there and why it's important for people to not focus so much on vanity when it comes to health and fitness.
Well, that example, I mean, he's a charlatan in the space. It's well known. And he brought his teenage daughters, his minor children up on stage and had them show their abs, which is just reinforcing a terrible relationship to exercise to his daughters, let alone having people look at them on stage. But, you know, if you chase the look, you're going to sacrifice your health. That's just a fact. Okay. If it's only about the look you get, you'll sacrifice your health to accomplish the look. And when your health really starts to suffer, so does the look. So you'll actually lose what you're trying to grab onto. If you focus on health, then the side effect of that is you look really good. So that should be most of the motivation right there. Like, okay, I want to look good, but don't look at looking good. Look at being healthy. And then the looks will follow. But, you know, look, here's the deal. And we have good data on this. You know, Arthur Brooks, a good friend of mine, he's an expert on happiness. He's a Harvard professor, best-selling author. He talks about appearance and its effect on happiness. And he goes, it's a terrible way to accomplish happiness. He goes, you know, if you were a 6, this is the example he told me. If you were a 6 and you spent all your time and money becoming a 9, it would barely register in your long-term happiness. So, well, then why does exercise and eating right make us happy? It's very little to do with how you look. Has much more to do with life quality, energy, mobility, functionality, hormone changes, you know, changes in neurotransmitters. The fact that you are accomplishing something difficult because it is a struggle and a challenge to learn exercises and to do them and get better at them. That's where those benefits come from. So yeah, I mean, now I'm not naive. I know the vast majority of people approach fitness wanting to look a particular way. But what I'm trying to tell those people is you'll get that result if you don't look at it, if you don't focus on it, instead focus on your health.
I know you guys had Phil Heath on, which, by the way, if people haven't watched that or listened to it, they definitely should. It was an amazing conversation. I had Phil on recently as well. And I know he talks about like his, you know, unhealthy relationship to his body and what it took to like compete at that level. Like, have you ever, like, recently in the last few years, like, has there been any sort of health struggle that you've dealt with on your own that you've had to overcome?
Health struggle?
Well, not like a sickness, but like a relationship to your body. Or...
I mean, that's always a struggle. I think, you know, I work in fitness, and it's a passion of mine, and I can very easily put the priority of fitness above priorities that should be above it. And so it starts to become an idol, and it's a terrible god. It's a tyrannical god. So yeah, that's a constant struggle. I mean, I got into fitness because of body image issues, and it could very easily slip away from me if I don't keep my eye on other things, or should I say, if I don't maintain awareness around it. So I can abuse my body through exercise, through the use of peptides and supplements. And so, yeah, that's a struggle. And what's helped me in the past was training clients, because I really care about my clients. What's helped me the most is my faith and putting things in the right order. But yeah, I mean, it is. And, you know, when you look at this is for anybody else listening, you know, there is a maturity that develops through this journey. And as your fitness and health maturity grows, so does your relationship with your body and your health. And look, this is evident, like, you know, the data, for example, on what age people are most satisfied with their bodies is people in, I believe it's in their 60s, if I'm not mistaken. Which you think, how could that be possible? I think it's because you're more accepting of yourself, you know? So yeah. I mean, it's going to be that game. And that's why that's why it's called the journey.
I'd love to know more about where you're at with your faith journey now. When we last chatted, I think it was in the fall. And I can't put the pieces exactly together, but I don't know if it was early last year was when you became a Christian, and you told the story on that. Like how much, and I saw you just actually recently got baptized or something. They told your story at the church. What was all that like?
Well, I mean, I was baptized as a child. But then again, remember, I was baptized as a child, kind of grew up. We went to church for Christmas and Easter. So I didn't really grow up in the faith, but became an atheist. I mean, I told the story last time on the podcast, became a Christian. And then once I became a Christian, it was like I just want to deepen my faith and my spiritual maturity. I hired a Christian coach. He's a pastor in Arizona. We get on the phone about once a week, and I learn more. My goal was to learn as much as I could about God's word, to develop better practices, to essentially become closer to Christ. And it's been an incredible journey. And as that journey started to develop, I started to feel maybe I should get baptized again as a willing, self-aware adult. And I brought it up to him, and he said, well, you don't have to. You were baptized as a child. He said, but it is something you see in the Bible. When people come to faith, they get baptized, and it is a great way to witness. And I just continued to felt convicted. And so my wife and I, as adults, went and got baptized, and it was pretty amazing. It's the most impactful thing I've ever done in my life is become a Christian. And what I've experienced, and I'm not using this word lightly, is a supernatural heart change. Supernatural. It's like my desires and my wants are changing. The things I like, the things I don't like, starts to mold and change. And it's been incredible. I've got a great community now at the church, and friends that go there, and a joy in my life that is indescribable. And it's cool because I'm very open. I'm an open book, and that's how I've always been on my podcast. So I'll talk about it, and it's great because I'm getting so many people are commenting and who are either Christian or who are now kind of open to it. And so I'm just praying that God uses me in that way, if that's what He wants. But it's been pretty amazing. It's the most important thing in my life. And, along those lines, it's really helped me with my relationship to exercise. It's really helped me to see where I place the idols I have in my life that I need to take down.
And I know they shared your testimony at the church you go to, and your dad was there. And I think I saw you mention that it was like the first time you've ever seen him cry. Like, talk about that. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, they wanted. They asked my wife and I if we would share our testimony and if they could film us and then show it on Easter. So we agreed. And it's funny too, because my wife is not one to want to be on camera or be in front of people, but she's felt convicted, and she's like, okay, I'll share my testimony. At one point they came to our house. I had 5 guys in my house with cameras and lights. And the day before, my wife was super anxious, and just like, I don't think I'm going to do well. And she was really, really anxious and just not feeling great. We prayed about it. And it's so crazy. When they got there, there was this incredible peace in my home. My kids were calm. I got, 2-year-old and 4-year-old. Like, good luck getting them to be calm, and good luck getting them to be chill with 5 strangers in the house. And it was great. It was such a peace. So they filmed us, and then they showed it on Easter in church, which was strange for me. I mean, I've been on camera many times before, but I've never sat and watched myself while other people are watching me. That was weird. But we watched it, and the pastor, Tim Lundy, he did a sermon that wove into our testimony. So basically the whole sermon included our testimony. And yeah, my parents were there. My dad, I saw him get emotional, which I've never seen before. Yeah. So it was really cool.
I know when I became a Christian, it deepened like my purpose in life. And I thought about other things outside of fitness that I wanted to do, or how I could take fitness to a deeper level through like helping people with drug addiction who battle with addiction, to help them use fitness to better their life after recovery. Have you found yourself getting like deeper in your life's purpose after becoming a Christian?
One thing I heard someone tell me, which was very profound, because I think we're all taught, well, I know this, we're taught in modern society, it's find your purpose, right? What is your purpose? And self-actualization, and you determine what your purpose in life is. And so we go on this journey of trying to figure that out. And is it to make money? Is it to be this or that? Or is my purpose to help people or sell this or to whatever? And someone told me, they said, it's not about who you are, it's about whose you are. And that was really profound. My purpose is whatever God wants my purpose to be, but I know that I'm his. And so that is very different. That changes everything completely. And so no matter what I'm doing, now what I try to do is I try to ask myself, or try to be aware as best I can, am I glorifying him? Am I glorifying him in my work? Am I glorifying him when I'm with my wife or my kids, or when I go out with friends, when I'm meeting a stranger? Am I glorifying him? And then I allow him, or I try to, I should say, allow him to direct me.
And from like a fitness standpoint, like how do you like view fitness now compared to where you were before being a Christian?
Yeah, what's interesting is over the course of 2 decades of training people and really, really genuinely wanting to help them, my methods, or the methods that I communicate often on the podcast, the ones that Adam and Justin came to on their own as well, because they trained and cared about people for just as much time, really align with biblical truth. I mean, all truth is God's truth. Okay. And so now that I am understanding God's word and biblical truth, I look back and go, that's why it was so effective. For example, like one of the hallmarks of the Christian faith, one of the things that differentiates it from any other faith is grace. It's grace. It's, Jesus came, died, and was resurrected. And that means that as long as you acknowledge it as truth, you're saved. And then, he changes your heart posture. And then you start to change, and you start to bear the fruits of really understanding that and accepting that. But it's grace first, right? Like the man on the cross next to Christ, he deserved to be crucified, looks over and says, basically acknowledges Jesus as God, and it is let into the kingdom of eternity. So that right there, right? The most effective ways that I found to train people was based on grace. It's grace-based. This is a journey. Care for yourself. You're going to stumble, and that's okay. And that's the foundation. So it's all now the ones and zeros, the what to eat and what exercise to do. Like that's also very important. But what's most important is that. So, when I got really good at training clients, like they felt that from me, and then they gave it to themselves. They extended it to themselves, which led to long-term success, lifetime success. This relationship with fitness, that was one that they wanted to maintain. But it was grace-based, and it's all, like I said, aligns with biblical truth.
I love that, man. Grace-based, and people need to have more compassion for themselves when they're on this journey. Obviously, I think the way that people talk to themselves when they're exercising and when they're not hitting their goals or they make a mistake or whatever, I think can matter. And a lot of times it can be negative. Like how can people, like what kind of things can people say to themselves when they're like not where they want to be in their health and fitness journey in order to show themselves some more grace and compassion?
It's not about the destination. Okay. So how do you get somewhere? Well, you take steps. Okay, so what's more effective? Looking at where I need to be or just walking towards it? Okay, so you're not where you want to be. Okay, so keep taking steps. Pressure the process. The results will follow. You pressure the results and the process, and it goes all over the place. And also, give yourself grace. It's hard. It's a journey. It's not easy. Keep at it. Shame and negativity and self-hate will result in either rebellion, which looks like I quit, or I'm going to go eat whatever I want. So it either results in that, or it results in abuse. You know, like the orthorexic, fitness fanatic, Instagram people that look shredded but really are anything but healthy. So that's where it comes from, and it is a journey. It's a total journey. It's very different from how we've ever approached it or been told to approach it, and it means that you have to live differently than you've lived before, and that's not easy. I mean, look, if you live the way you're supposed to, if you eat the way you're supposed to, if you work the way you're supposed to, you're going to be unhealthy. That's the default. Okay, so you're trying to be essentially a rebel. You're trying to be different than most people. That's hard. That means the whole world is against you in that sense, right? In that case. So it's not easy. So, do you think you're going to stumble? Expect it. Expect to stumble. Nobody ever doesn't stumble. So that's it. And give yourself grace when you do.
I think one of the cool things about fitness is that you get excited about life when you're feeling better about yourself, increased mood, libido, like you've talked about the benefits of like that already in the conversation. And then I think people just want to keep taking it further. And then they end up, developing things like orthorexia. And then you see on social media, people who are shirtless filming videos, or people in grocery stores that they think that they want to aspire to become. And then that creates, some mental health issues on the other side of that. How can people have like a healthier relationship as they're getting super excited and passionate about their health transformation?
I mean, same stuff I've been saying, Doug. It's really no different. Like, am I caring for myself like somebody that deserves to be cared for? Do I give myself grace when I stumble? And every small step is celebrated. And it's a movement forward. That's it. That's it. Here's the deal. Don't make promises to yourself that you can't keep, or to put differently, make promises you'll keep. They're small steps. Celebrate them. Become someone you can trust. That's what you want to do.
Any myths right now you see online that really bother you, other than what we've talked about regarding health and fitness?
I mean, anything that has a potential weight loss benefit then gets marketed as a weight loss tool. So like fasting is great for spiritual health, but do you lose weight when you don't eat? Yeah. So now let's talk about it as a diet. It's stuff around that. It really is. The idea that a workout needs to be painful and grueling in order to be effective. That's not true whatsoever. In fact, most workouts should not be grueling. You shouldn't feel like you survived. The idea that fast results are best results. Fast results typically are results that go away. There's so much that I see and hear. But I got to be positive. A lot of it's changing, Doug. I mean, we've been doing this now for 10 years, and we have a big enough voice now to where I can see changes. I can see now that there's certain things that just seem too silly to say now, whereas before they would have got away with them. So I'm positive.
What about seed oils? I know that's gotten a lot of airtime lately.
Probably not good for you. Is it like with the top 10 of things that we need to be careful, watch out for? No. It's funny. If you eat less calories than you burn, so many of the negative effects of unhealthy food disappear. Now, I'm not saying what you eat doesn't matter, but if you avoid seed oils, if all you eat are seed oil-free processed foods, you're going to be obese.
Right.
Now, seed oils, there's better fats that are out there, but I think that we've made a big deal about them, and they're not as big of a deal as they're making.
Sal, thanks again for coming back on the podcast and sharing your wisdom. If people, were born in a barn and aren't following Mind Pump yet, where do they do that?
Mind Pump, you can find us anywhere that you can see a podcast. So Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and then Instagram is Mind Pump Media.
Awesome, man. Thanks again for coming on the show.
You got it. Thanks, man.